Hey guys,
Dear.
welcome back to Into the Discussion podcast, the podcast where myself and the fantastic co host Marcus, we discuss anything we want, and you get to join in and eavesdrop on the conversation, like the weirdo that you are. So before, before we get into the topic, Marcus needs to say something
Oh,
before we
hello.
get.
Oh, what have you been up to? So, but
Yes,
okay, you know
small
what?
talk.
Let's cut the nonsense. We just finished recording the other episode that you probably heard like 2 weeks ago. Let's be straightforward with it. We just recorded the TikTok is getting banned, whatever. It's probably gonna be banned by now.
It's
Who
banned by
knows? Maybe
now.
Mr. Beast is gonna go ahead and buy it.
Oh
Hopefully
yes,
he doesn't, because then it's really gonna suck.
in a future reality,
Anyways,
Mr. Beast and Elon Musk joined forces and made another Twitter out of TikTok.
goodness, probably. But let's hope not. Let's hope we're not in the future by the time this episode gets out and it's like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you want your small talk listeners, go ahead and listen to that episode. The topic today is stories.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I guess we're jumping right into it.
Yes.
So like you said, the topic today is stories. Stories like is a very open and broad idea because stories can be told in very many ways. The main source of the idea came from books specifically, but of course, stories can be told in very many different ways, and we will cover all of that later on.
Oh yes. But I guess primarily we talking about like books.
I
Well,
guess
maybe
we
not. I
could
don't know. We'll see where it goes.
we could start with books because books is the easiest like go to topic when it comes to storytelling.
Listeners,
Obviously,
gotta be honest, I can't read, so no I'm kidding.
are you dyslexic?
No, I would never, probably.
Oh no, that explains a lot. It explains.
What? You
All
know
right.
what? Just for that, I actually just read through like all of Abandoned listeners, 1695 Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon.
Yes. My masterpiece that is.
Yes. Dude, I really need to get a bookmark instead of using this notice that my license is gonna expire as a bookmark.
Oh yes. Yeah, you probably should. Or I could pay for merch. Is this a merch reveal?
What? Whoa, no.
Bookmarks?
So we stand against merch before the full product is released here.
So I guess a way we could, since we're just like diving into the topic, I guess a good way to start would be, what is your since we're starting with books, what's your favorite kind of like book genre to read?
Um, hmm. The last book that I like willingly just went and picked up and read. Well, not the last book, but like the one that just caught my eye, I guess, for me to go do that was just this person talking about like horror stories in America.
Yeah.
And that book really sucked. it,
What
it
sucked about
was
it?
it was like one of the worst books I've read. I mean, some of it was good, but a majority of it, I was like, wow, this is one of the most boring things I've ever read. I actually, maybe I shouldn't have said all that because I was gonna name the book. I'm not sure if I want to. It's an
Oh,
okay read, I guess. It like if you're just wanting to kill some time or you're into like, I can't even say like true horror stories, then American Monsters, I believe, was the name of it. I may be
American
thinking about it
Monsters.
the wrong one.
I think I've heard of a book like that. Is it like short stories, like short horror stories?
It's like there's I don't remember the name of the woman that wrote the book, but she's like some kind of reporter, I guess.
Yeah.
And she was just like talking about the different accounts of like monsters in America. Shocker, I know. And I do remember one of them. One of the things that were brought up were werewolves, and
Werewolves is
it's
a really
like
old one.
she starts the chapter. I don't think it's that old, honestly, but
Werewolves? That's
whenever I read that. like the first time I read that book, it was like 2017. So I
That
guess it's
book
fairly.
itself, I mean, like werewolves. I'm actually surprised that would be if it's like a book about just American horror stories. Werewolves is a very interesting one to throw in there because
Where,
America is not the
huh?
origin.
The werewolves in America. You know the song, anyways.
No.
No, that book. She starts off that like whole chapter, I guess is what it would be called, talking about how she doesn't even believe it, and it's like, okay,
Ugh.
how am I supposed to be interested in what you're saying if you're over here starting the book with like, yeah, I think the story sucks, anyways.
You serious?
Yes, it annoyed me so much. Just that one like throwaway comment. She's like, personally, I think this is preposterous. Like, oh, whatever, snob.
That's interesting. I okay. Uh, who's the author? I might be reaching out in a very private and very enraged message for you.
No, I'm look. It was 2017. I'm not like still mad about it, but I remember reading at the time, and even I don't even remember how old I was in 2017, but I'm pretty young, so I
Yeah.
was very young back then. And whenever I read that, even I was like, "Why would you start your story talking about how like you don't even believe what you're writing?"
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
a
like, that's
little
such an
interesting.
uninteresting way to write a book. Just to be like, "Yeah, I don't think any of this matters." Anyways,
Was
let
it
me go ahead
supposed
and
to
list
be
this.
was it supposed to be like intentional fiction or was this supposed to be like, oh, these things
No,
actually happen?
no, it's supposed to be like people's different accounts. So like there was Bigfoot like account, like testimonies. That's the word I'm thinking about. It's like testimonies of people that have seen like these American monsters, and like one of the chapters was werewolves. And I didn't read all of them. I read the Bigfoot one, and I was like, okay, that one's fine, I guess. Like there's nothing very out of the ordinary about that. And then I read that
Yeah.
werewolf one, and I saw that comment she made, and I was just like, "That's such an uninteresting." But I can't even be interested in any of this chapter now because she's over here just like, "Yeah, I think this sucks. I don't think it's real. I
That's
think it's all
interesting.
lies." So I just wrote it down for fun, I guess.
I don't understand what the point of putting a comment in a something like that would
That's
be.
what I.
The,
If you're a reporter, why are you gonna throw a comment like that in?
yeah, reporters are typically supposed to be unbiased and are supposed to just be like sharing information, but to each their own, I
That
guess.
it's supposed to be. I guess some didn't get the memo, especially not whoever wrote that book. Maybe
Yeah,
I should
no.
I get up for a minute just to grab the book,
Yeah, you can.
verify that I had the name right.
Yeah, you can do
All
that.
right, one sec. I can probably still hear you through the headphones, hopefully. Yeah, you really let me down there. I heard your lack of small talk.
I
Anyways,
have nothing to say. What am I going to say to
okay,
that?
yeah. Dang, this book is thick.
What?
Oh my gosh, it sold for the
Whoa.
same price as Abandoned.
But the same price
Two,
as what? Abandoned. Oh my
yes,
gosh, the
two,
masterpiece. It's
to the
available.
cent.
It's available at Walmart. All those good well, available through Walmart, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Those cool places.
Oh wait, my mistake. In Canada, it's also 18.95, but in the U.S.,
Dang.
16.95 is the price of this thick book.
Oh, what an amazing price.
Anyway, oh, why would you even use that as the cover? Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So maybe I should like move more in the direction of the mic as I sit down really quick. Uh, yeah, it's called American Monsters, and the cover is like the America whatever,
Yeah.
and it's got like slash marks across the country, and then there's a werewolf tearing through the middle.
There's a werewolf on the cover.
Yes, of all the things,
My
Linda,
God.
that's the author's name. Of all the things, Linda, you put the one story that you like really fumbled there.
That's crazy.
Gosh, how old was I reading a book like this? This looks so boring. I mean, looks can be deceiving. Maybe it's like a really interesting read. Like I said, I only read the werewolf chapter and the Bigfoot one.
You read two of them. You said it's a thick book. You should probably just go
It's
back
a pretty
into
thick
reading it.
book.
Huh.
Heck no, not after that clip. What was
I
that, the
mean, you
Mothman?
could.
Oh, yes, it was.
Uh,
Chapter 3, she has the Mothman. I see the last chapter was called Bat Squatch. I think I'm done with this book. I'm gonna go put it back.
Mothman's a good one. I know the story
Moth
behind Mothman. That's a good one. Don't let the name
Mothman
deceive
and
you.
Bat Squatch.
Not Bat Squash. I don't know who that is, but Mothman, I know who that is.
I'm gonna go ahead and put this back now.
Oh my gosh. Other than that one, other than that interesting, very, very interesting masterpiece of a book that not even the author appreciated, what other genres do you like reading?
Okay, so I feel like Diary of a Wimpy Kid was a given back then.
Diary of a Wimp. I
Not,
haven't touched one of those books in years.
yeah, it's been a bit.
Huh.
I haven't. Well, he pumps them out once a year like they're a Pokemon game.
Yeah, he's
So
still releasing those things, actually. He's
I
still
know,
making them.
I know,
Crazy
and
stuff.
it's every year.
Yeah. It's gotta be feeding
But
Scholastic. He's on a contract, you know it.
probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's eh. In hindsight, it'd be nice if he aged up the characters a bit because I feel like he's kind of done everything he can do with the characters at their current age.
Greg's been in
And he's
middle school for years.
forgive me, but personally, I think it's been done to death.
Yes.
This this whole little middle school kid wimpy thing he's had going on. He could change it up a bit
It's
because I mean,
it's more than a phase.
yes, the recent books are just I don't know. It's like reading a cartoon.
Has he even gone to high school yet in the books, or is he still a middle
No,
schooler? Are you
still
kidding
middle
me?
school. Yeah.
Man, he's like Ash Ketchum.
Well, I mean, I haven't read the most recent ones, so who knows? Maybe he did enter freshman year, but as far as I know, he has been in middle school.
That would be a monumental moment. I feel like that would be something the news would report on. Greg Heffley
Greg
has moved
finally
on.
ages up.
Yes.
Zach Gordon can come back to play him now.
Just like just like when Ash Ketchum finally won whatever the fuck that was he was training for. I forget what it's called.
Whenever
Um
he became the best, I guess. I don't
yeah,
know.
when he became the very best like no one ever was and the show actually ended.
Yes.
And
It
he's
only
still
took
10 years
them
old.
like 23 years.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know how they are like get away with pumping out the same stuff, the same character who's the same age for like 20 to 30 years.
Reboots.
It's actually crazy.
That's the answer. Reboots.
That form of storytelling annoys the heck out of me though, because it's like that's just cash grabs. It's not like you're actually telling a story anymore.
You want to know who kind of did it well?
Who's that?
And I know this isn't like a hot take or anything, but if I remember correctly, you said you didn't watch it, but like Avatar, the show.
Avatar? No, I've never watched anything Avatar related. I'm aware of what it
That
is, but I've never seen anything Avatar related.
the comedy, I'm not. Eh. I'm very with.
Yeah.
I think some of their jokes are funny, but for the most part, it's like. But anyways, their like way of storytelling, I think, was really really good actually.
What's the best way to describe the way that they were telling the story?
Like nothing is stale. Like things keep changing. Like the
Uh-huh.
tone of the story changes. I think after the first season because it kind of. I mean, sorry for spoilers. I'm not gonna spoil a lot because I do think you should watch it. And like half, maybe not. No, I think it was the first season. I don't know. No, I'm not gonna go and try to look up the show and go through the episodes again for this. But I believe it's like at the end of the first season, there's like a huge tone shift because it's like, oh hey, you're kind of on a countdown. Like you can't be messing around this much. And like up until that point, the show is like fairly lighthearted with most things, except for a few moments.
I see. So it's like you joined a universe or you joined a universe and you're like actually like going through not like day-to-day life. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like you're going through the story in like a linear path and it's not like you're like stepping
Yeah.
back at all or
Yes.
stopping or anything.
Yes.
Okay. I like
I
I
mean, there
like
is.
stories like that.
I won't. I won't lie. I do know of like a few filler episodes. That's like, but like for the most part, every episode is like a step forward. Like it all serves a purpose,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
As
like
a
there's, I don't know. They're just like really good with like world building and
Huh.
character building.
Like as every
And
as every story should too, because there's
yeah,
just I mean, it's not really a story anymore if you don't have character development, if you don't have a progression in a storyline, um, and all that good stuff. That's literally storytelling 101. like like for real.
yes. There was a short story that I wrote recently. Will never be released. But anyways, while I was writing that, like as I was starting, part of like the notes I had in my mind was just like, okay, what did it was like thinking of that show of Avatar, the last Airbender one, not the blue people. But it was like, okay, like what really stuck out to me about this? Because like I know I like the story, and like a big thing was the characters. So I was like, okay, I'll try to make the story very character focused.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, that's how I wrote the story, which I still need to go back and finish. Well, tidy up a bit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do think you should watch that. I think you'd enjoy it.
I think I'll check it out. That does sound interesting because when it comes to me and like, this is probably something you don't know about me either. When it comes to watching stuff uh or playing stuff even, I am very big on just stories specifically.
Yes.
So if I'm like watching a show, whenever I call like a show or a game bad, it's usually because I either didn't like the way they were telling the story or that the story was just dull to begin with. It's
Me with Five
another
Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, so hear me out. Five Nights at Freddy's used to be good. It used to be awesome. Like the story was compelling. It was mysterious. There were all these pieces and all these like different areas back when Scott Cawthon was telling the story himself. It used to be great. Nowadays, I don't like the new content that's being pushed. I don't know if we already discussed it in the podcast at any point,
I
but
don't believe.
the new stuff, like post security breach, past security breach, makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. It's sloppy. Nothing's consistent. It's blatantly obvious that it's just sloppy to be sloppy. And security breach was a big example, um, because they had like all these pieces and they just threw them where or Steel Wool is the they. They just threw things where things like made sense, and it just did not bring the story together. Um,
That was mostly the create his name. Oh my gosh, Scott Cawthon. That was
yeah,
mostly his fault though, because
it
he
is.
just loves being mysterious, and so he was mysterious with the company in charge of making his game,
Yeah.
and look what resulted.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a story, like if you're going to create a story like as deep as Five Nights at Freddy's is, there should be communication on a certain level, which I feel like they've done better actually in the more recent games that have come out. In Ruin, things felt more like cohesive and you know strong. The Help Wanted 2 as well with the little stuff they did throw in there. I will only be able to form an opinion after Secret of the Mimic releases, which should be coming out in like next few months, because that
Is
one
that its
is
own game
it's its own
or?
game. Yeah, Secret of the
Oh,
Mimic
okay.
is its own game. Um, and it's going to be a very important game in the series. So if they screw it up, I don't even know if I'm gonna want to play any newer FNAF games coming out. But anyways,
I
I was
just
what?
I okay. My first, I mean not my first, because y- y- it would be hard to avoid seeing anything Five Nights at Freddy's. But like the first time that I actually like sat down and like took in what I was seeing was Security Breach,
Yeah.
and I did not understand it. So I was watching it with our mutual friend Nicholas,
Oh yeah.
and he was like shocked at one of the endings that what's his face got, Markiplier,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I understood none of it. He was just like, "Oh my gosh, like what's his face is a Springtrap is alive?" And I was like, "I have no
Oh,
idea
that
what you're
ending.
talking about.
That
Those
ending.
words."
Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
he was like, "Oh my gosh, Funtime Freddy's back and Springtrap is alive." And I was like, "I understand nothing that you're telling me right now. I don't know what any of those words mean." And so he had me sit down and watch theory videos of the originals,
Yeah.
and partially Security Breach. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, that's not an awful story, you know, the haunted kids thing, because I'm into like some ghost stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay. And I was interested at first. And then, like, that same week, my interest was almost immediately killed because I watched another theory video and they mentioned illusion disc. And that just absolutely ruined the entire thing for me.
This is
I
this is a continuing argument between you and I when it comes to the illusion discs. I think the
I
illusion discs are
hate.
cool. I think that's a
I
cool
don't
idea.
know. I
Listen,
really hate that idea.
would you rather it be the illusion discs or would you rather it be what was it, Fazbear Frights, or it was either Fazbear Frights or Tales from the Pizzaplex? Would you like it to be hallucinogenic gas instead of
I
the
think
illusion
both of
disc?
them are stupid.
But the thing is, then the nightmare
I don't
animatronics
think
make
you
no
should be
sense.
narrowing it down to those two stupid paths. Those are both awful ways of telling a story. Look, okay. One of the things that like everyone hears in their English class in school is do not make the ending of your story, or like pretty much just any of your story, the it was all a dream trope. And I feel like the illusion disc is like a very cheap way of getting away with that.
I mean, it's that, but also I don't. Well,
Yeah, and it's the
Sc-
same thing. It's like none of it was real. Like that's the big reveal all along. And I just think that's such a stupid thing because it makes like everything
mm,
else irrelevant. Like that, I'll never go back and read a story like with this new information just because like oh nothing was real unless it's done. I'm not saying that can't be done in a clever way, like with a big reveal. Like a what was that movie? I think the movie was called Fall. Big
mm,
spoilers or Climb. I forgot. Two
I
very
don't
different
know.
things. Anyways, it's about these two girls climbing a signal tower or something.
Yeah.
So, if you're interested in watching a movie like that, skip ahead a bit to wherever. Anyways, like this girl, she tries to like go for a jump to get a bag, and then the other girl like closes her eyes because she thinks she's gonna die. But then she like calls out to her, and she's like, "Oh, good," and she like pulls her back up. And so they're trying to survive the water tower with the bag that they got.
Yeah.
It had a drone in it or something. And then the girl's like, she drops the bag at one point. She's trying to climb higher, and the other girl doesn't catch it. And so she gets back down. She's like, "Why didn't you catch that?" And then it's revealed that the girl actually did die in that fall, and like the other girl just couldn't take it, and she started going crazy and like hallucinating that she was still there. And I think that
Oh,
that is very cleverly done.
that is an actual storytelling, like an actual form of storytelling. I know quite a few films, games, and whatever that do that. In fact, I'm actually a huge supporter of that way of storytelling.
Yes, I think that
Of
that's like a really good story, like a really good twist to it. Because like, oh dang, like that's really sad, but it's also like it's a big shock moment
I
because
would
you know up until then it's like she's there clear as day, and then she just like after it's revealed and she remembers her death, like she finally like thinks back and remembers seeing her body on the signal tower where it hit, and then
yeah.
like after that the other girl is just gone, and so it's like oh, like it's a big moment, but the way Five Nights at Freddy's does it, it's
Yeah,
just so
it's a little sloppy. Yeah.
it is sloppy. I don't look. I know the creator likes his science fiction,
Yeah.
but I think you can use science fiction and make something really uninteresting with it, and that's what he did with Illusion Disc.
Yeah, but I mean, using just the illusion disc could, I guess. I mean, I don't think that it makes like the rest of the story like irrelevant or null and void in how interesting it is, unless you're trying to throw it into security breach, which is already a mess to begin with. Um,
That I think that's actually where Illusion Disc got brought up. It was a security breach
well,
theory video I was watching,
the
and somebody was
illusion
like, "Oh,
disc,
why are the disc invisible? Because they're illusion disc." And I was like, "Oh, I hate, I
the
hate this."
illusion disc dates back to FNAF 4. They were first revealed as an actual part of the story in Sister Location, but they were more of like a. It was how do I? The illusion disc and Sister Location was for voice mimicking. Um, for I believe Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy, so Funtime Freddy could lure children towards him. Like it made sense back then, because they were designed to capture children for Afton to do tests on or whatever when he was trying to figure out um the whole immortality thing. But the theory was that because those were revealed, that maybe the FNAF 4 animatronics were like actual, like molds, and they had the illusion discs and did whatever to mess with the mind of whoever the main character is to make them look like there's something else.
Okay, that's another thing about that game you mentioned. FNAF 4 is like the nightmare one, right?
Yeah,
Like the
that's my
animatronic
one.
sort of.
Yeah.
I actually preferred. I know I just went on like this whole rant about how like the dream theory makes everything useless. And
Yeah.
that game, I feel like that's one of the few examples where it would have worked. And I know people don't like that theory, but it's like, oh, the kid is like in a coma, and like the thing that killed him is like haunting him in his nightmares. And I was like, okay, that from a story perspective, I think that actually does kind of work.
That
And
would
but
have been
no,
cool.
it's illusion disc. I think so too. But no, it's they went and put illusion disc somewhere, and now I'm just like, okay,
Well,
now I don't, now I don't
I
really
don't know
care.
if it was I don't know if it was ever actually confirmed that that's exactly what it was, because I think that Scott was trying to imply that it was actually the gas thing, which would be very
I
bizarre if that was the case, and again, very messy
hate that
storytelling.
too.
Yeah, the gas is a very weird thing. That's not really in line with the rest of what FNAF is.
I,
That
don't-
would be
I hate
crazy.
both of them as a plot device. I'll just put it like that.
I suppose. I mean, I don't really care that much, just as long as like things fall together and like eventually make sense. And if they don't, then oh my gosh, the plot holes.
I don't I don't see the franchise ever reaching that point in the near future where it's like, oh, everything's falling together. I think they're just gonna keep on like adding all this mess until it's just this huge pile that like nobody can even think until the creator's like, no, I guess I'll stop being all mysterious.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
in short, I'm not a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's story.
yeah.
Maybe in the originals.
Yeah, the originals. I agree 100%. The originals were great. That's where I actually started getting into the story to begin with. So I have another. I mean, it's like kind of a question, I suppose. What do you think of stories? So they start at a certain point, and then the end of the story, they end up right back at the beginning, if you know what I'm saying, like a circle story, and then things just keep
Oh,
repeating. What do you think about that form of storytelling?
so it's not. I mean, I think that can be done. So it's like a loop, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Like things end up looping.
it's basically a loop. It's kind of in tandem with. Oh, so like you could look at it as like, oh, this never happened, kind of thing. It's kind of like the sister idea, but it's just looping forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So to be honest, those don't interest me a lot either. But I think it's very specific how to do it. But I think it
Yeah,
can be done. Like I won't go in detail about it, but you mentioned an episode or two ago of this podcast that I was doing a lot of Little Nightmares to edit,
yeah.
and that same thing is actually done in that game. Well, Little Nightmares 2. That same thing is actually done in that game.
A looped story.
Yeah, like it's revealed that there's like some kind of loop going on, but the thing is that's very contained, I guess is how I would say. Like there's only one person the loop is affecting and the rest of the world is carrying on, basically.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yes, so I don't know, like most of the story I'd say is still like relevant. Like things aren't just resetting and repeating.
Yeah.
Like things are carrying on, so the story can move on, and we're not just stuck on that. And like the story that you did have in that game was pretty good. So I don't know. I'm not. I guess I'm not like really that much against it, but it's definitely not my cup of tea.
For me, I'm a huge fan of the idea of a looped story, but like you said, it has to be done right. Like if you start at a certain point and then you have like this very nice story, leading up to that, like you don't know what's gonna happen, so you're like telling the story, and then there's like a pivotal moment where it changes, and then all of a sudden it restarts. That's the kind of thing that I am a huge uh fan of, and I'm not gonna say it because I am a well I calling myself an author is a very questionable thing, but it's like um I'm not
You're writing a story.
I am writing a story, so it's like these are things that I've obviously thought about incorporated. I do have a specific um I like a specific way that I'm telling the story, and there's obviously not a reason why I'm asking I brought this up. Um I do appreciate stories that do that. Um let me see.
I don't think they're like if you told me that a story would go into a loop, I wouldn't assume that it's bad. But
I
uh,
would be questioning the whole time during the whole story. If I knew already that that was going to happen, I'd be questioning the whole time, and I would miss out on so much of the story because I'm like, okay, so how is this going to go back to the beginning? I think that it would just be like an annoying thing to just know.
okay, so like let's say oh, okay. So another cousin of mine, he described it pretty well, I guess what you just described. He was referring to this show and it's called Black Mirror.
Uh-huh.
And he said like okay, so like a lot of these episodes kind of carry a similar kind of way of not way, like maybe a plot, I guess. And he's like so basically like let's say and use an example and I don't know if it's from an actual episode, so sorry if like I'm spoiling anything. But he said like so this person like they get robbed at a bank by some guy in like really messed up clothes or whatever after offering him money. And then he's like, but then they get kidnapped after getting robbed, and then they're like really beaten, and the whole time they're questioning like, how could somebody do this? And they're like held at gunpoint, and the person asks like, in order to not like die, you're gonna have to do this. And then they send him to that
Oh,
same bank, like all beaten. And so
yeah.
like it's that kind of loop. Like not where it's happening with the same person, but like it's a cycle, I guess, repeating.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
And like
that's a pretty cool idea too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I have nothing against that idea. But like I said though, just for me, a story like that would have to be like carefully done.
I think
I guess most stories do.
yeah, with any story that you're telling, if you're gonna tell it, you should be like carefully crafting it the whole way,
Yeah.
and everything should be intentional. There shouldn't be a question of should I do this? Should I not do this? Um,
Use the
yeah,
animator's philosophy. Like every frame of animation you can like look at and know that like every single one was intentional. Like where it's 2D, 3D, like it doesn't matter. Every frame had to be put there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so just if you're writing a story, it should also feel like that. Like every word was put there for a reason.
I guess real quick here we can throw this in about Abandon, which is the wonderful book that I wrote. Um,
Okay.
I say that with love. I actually I'm gonna do the thing that you were making fun of earlier, Marcus. I actually hate the first book with a passion. I do not like it. I did not like writing it. I actually I don't know if I brought this up because I know on another podcast I actually did sit down um with somebody and actually talk about the book a little bit.
I did listen to that actually. Although I
Oh
can't
yes,
remember the name, so dang it.
for the listener here, the podcast was That's Delivered. Um,
mm,
it was a kids and careers episode where I sat down and talked about like the back ends like publishing part and whatever, but I never sat down and talked about the story itself. And I did promise that I was going to do that and I never did. I still might like a more in-depth like analysis thing on my channel, but um for the
I mean,
staying on
for
what
the
you were saying.
time being, I was saying for the time being, we're here. So I'm turning on the light because my room just got super dark. I guess it's gonna rain or whatever. Anyways,
Yeah, for the sake of this episode, I guess I can like get into the story design of it, because it was very specific. And I mentioned to you, because you read the whole thing, you actually proofread it for me. Well, kind of. You read
So
through it. You read through it. You didn't proofread it, but
there
you
were
read
there were
through it.
things that I had in mind that I really should have like mentioned, but I was like,
Yeah.
that's gonna like, change a lot though, so I ended up not mentioning it. And sometimes like I'll pick up the book and I'll look at what I saw and I'm like, dang it, maybe I should have said something. I'm just like,
You did read through the original rough draft, and then you read the final version. I
I
don't.
have the final version in hand, but I had read the first rough draft and yeah,
Yeah.
now that I think about it, that was it.
The rough draft did change. It did change a lot into what the final version is. I actually rewrote some things in some of those places. I wanted to throw the very bold card onto the table that everything in that book was either intentional or I made intentional after the fact. I I hated writing the first book. It's one of those things where um it's actually a form of storytelling that I hate, and I ended up actually doing it. It's where you throw in like an actual prologue. You know how some games will have like the prologue chapter and then it gets into the actual story so that you know how things like built up to a certain moment.
Oh, yes.
I don't like that at all, because I would rather be thrown into it, like thrown into a story and be like, okay, so we got stuff to learn. It's more uh I don't
Ooh.
want to say immersive, but it makes the game more interesting.
We have very
On the
different
story.
opinions on that
The
because
story more
actually that
interesting.
chapter in Abandon is like the one that I liked.
Yeah, it's I mean, not that. I'm talking about the whole book itself. The whole book itself
Oh,
is the prologue chapter that I'm referring to. The thing is,
oh,
I did mention this publicly, which is why I'm comfortable with talking about this. That the second book is technically what should have been the first book, which is why I hate the first book so much. But I had to throw it in there so things make sense eventually. That's why it's like a limited time release at this point, because it won't be
oh.
available like next year. Um, I might end up re-releasing it as like a free version for the sake of the story, but it it's annoying. I don't like it, but the thing is, I don't want to spoil too much, but the thing is, if I didn't write it, nothing in the first book would, well, not nothing, but it would make the second book hard to understand, as of why specific characters are present and all that. I mean, it's already it's already going to be confusing, and it's like in a, I guess, in what I think is an interesting way. But with the way that book was written, it was very intentional, and I guess something I could address is the many typos that are in it. The many typos, and there's some names that are
Okay,
actually spelled wrong at times, which is not my
there's.
doing. That wasn't my doing. Everything was perfect until it was edited by somebody else.
I actually was gonna. I was debating on bringing that up.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a thing
your
I'm very
editor
aware of.
really dropped the ball on that one.
That's another thing with storytelling. Even if someone else like screws it up for you, it gives you another open door of opportunities, where now that's actually something I mentioned that I made things intentional. Um, that is now uh a piece to the puzzle that I just made happen now. Um, the imperfections with that book are now what you could call canon. It did work. I'm not gonna tell you why. I'm sure you're like confused as all get up right now, but it'll make sense
Yes,
eventually. It'll make sense
yes, I
eventually.
am. You,
It'll
you
make a
you've
lot of
lost
sense.
me.
It'll make a lot of sense. I just trust me. In a little bit down the road, it will make more sense. Just like everything else in the book that probably didn't make sense. There's a reason that I threw in the quote for uh you probably know what quote I'm about to bring up.
Yeah.
For Roy the Rat, not every story makes sense right away, but that's what makes it interesting. I like stories that throw in a bunch of like a bunch of, not facts, a bunch of details and whatever, and not explain like why they're there. Which is what the inspiration of that idea. actually came from Scott Cawthon himself because he throws
I was
so
gonna
many
say, Alex,
details
are
out
you
there.
FNAFing us?
I am
Is that
FNAFing
what I'm
you.
hearing right now?
I am FNAFing you.
I just told
Throwing
you I
details.
don't like this FNAFing style.
Well, at least I'm not throwing in illusion discs.
Okay, fair enough.
At least it's not illusion discs. But
You know what? I'll give you that.
I do promise you, the first book, the whole book itself is literally that. But once the second, because I'm writing the second one right now, the second one and everything after is a linear story, like as it should be. The first book was just like supposed to be, like I said, like the prologue chapter almost of a game, because it was supposed to be a game, and that
Oh,
never
I
happened.
remember.
And that never ended up. No, I'm maybe it'll happen someday. Like once most of the books are out, and then we can actually make a really big game out of it, and it'll actually be a prologue chapter of the game. Like seriously. But that's a project for the future. I'm not going to be working on that myself. I am not redoing everything. But yeah, we just had to throw in a little tidbit there about the book.
I mean, it was a fun little thing. There was something you had mentioned that I wanted to. Oh, the that way of like, I guess like a throwback and then being put back into the like present day or whatever, like the present moment of the story.
Like
And how you said you like hated that.
like random memory, like random
I
memories that come up.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, those.
That that way of like writing, I actually did a lot in that last story that I wrote.
Oh, I see.
Well, it's not quite done exactly like how you would think,
Yeah.
but it is done in a way, and it's done
Uh-huh.
often. But like, I don't know, I not to like be like this is like the best thing ever written, but like I personally am interested in like a story like that. And
Uh-huh.
like that part of your book caught my attention too, which I think is like why I used it so much here.
I
But
see.
yeah, me and you just have like very different book opinions. You
Yeah.
support the
Yeah.
illusion disc, I don't.
Well,
You
I
do
don't
not support
support the
the
illusion disc. I'm
you
just
you
saying
love the
that
illusion disc. You
I'm
have some
saying
hanging
that
above
it
your
makes
bed.
sense. I'm not saying I like it.
I don't think it makes sense. How are multiple people hallucinating the same thing anyways?
Uh, uh-huh.
No answer anyways.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I don't like Harness Sprint. No, I'm kidding. That's not how I'll end it. I think it's okay, but I'm only gonna pay attention to like the first few games. Be like, okay, that's the story. I don't care about the AI stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
There's one more method of storytelling that's like been a little dead as of recent.
What's that? What's that?
Surely you remember the era of storytime animators on YouTube.
You mean like memory, not what is it called?
You know, you got your
Like
something else
memoir,
YT, your odd ones out,
like
your Jaden
memoir
animations.
animations, like that stuff.
Uh, maybe.
I mean, like, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I used to watch the Odd Ones Out specifically for a couple years there.
Yeah. So like those style of videos.
Yeah.
They're that method of storytelling, but I feel like that kind of died out
Yeah, it kind
for
of
as
did, I
popular as
guess.
it was. But I mean, there's only so much story you can tell.
Yeah, because they like specialize in, well, they used to do stuff like from their childhoods and whatever, like growing up, life experiences, all that good stuff. Now it's just
Yeah.
turned into like opinions and whatever. Because I mean, they probably talked about everything they could about their childhoods.
Yeah, which I like. I don't mind. I think that can be done fine. Like, okay, so like Jaden Animations, she goes over like her current experiences, and I still like those videos. She's like her
Yeah.
giving her opinion on them. Like she did one about, gosh, his name keeps coming up, the Mr. Beast games that she did.
Oh,
Not the
not
games, but
BCS.
like
Oh
the
no.
the competition she did with like all the other people.
The
And I thought that that was
oh,
fine.
that one. I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah.
YouTubers in a box thing.
Yes, and she actually won that challenge too.
Yeah, she did. She did. That was actually a really cool thing that she won that.
Yes. So there's that, and then there's, and let me just give my opinion now. I don't like the odd ones out.
Mm,
I did, and it's a shame because like he was kind of the reason that like I wanted to do animation in the first place. I watched that and I was like, you can do animation that looks like that. I don't. The
uh-huh.
thought just never occurred to me that like animation can be anything,
Yeah.
and seeing the way he animated kind of showed me that. But now I see his animation and it's like the like I know he has an entire team now,
Yeah, he used to do
but
it
it's
all
just
himself.
yes, it just I don't know. It's like a lack of personality, I guess, for how expressive his what would you call it? Like his bubble character, I guess.
Yeah, I
I
I
thought it was like a
gotcha.
marshmallow guy, but for how expressive he is, it's still such like a lack of personality going into it. And
It
I
kind
just
of
I don't know.
it kind of changed after his show came out on Netflix because he kind of dabbled into like you said teams. He
Yeah, and he
stopped
had to like
doing it
step
himself.
away mostly from his channel. Not maybe not mostly, but like a big part from his channel.
Yeah.
Give the reins to others. And
Yeah.
then I've seen clips of that Netflix show and oh dear.
I mean, it's not as I've seen the whole show. I saw seasons 1 and 2. I don't know if there's like a third season, but I saw
He got
the
canceled
first 2.
after season 2.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the whole show then. It's not anything like his channel. I was like going into it thinking, okay, so this is gonna be really funny because his videos used to be funny. They used to be like hilarious even.
Yeah.
The show was not that. The show was basically it was obviously written by Netflix employees. It was obviously written by a team of people and not literally just him. Um, well, that's a given because it's a show that's being produced by a big company. But I really wish that it could have been like his story time videos. I wish that it was actually funny.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just the clips I saw, it was just too juvenile for me.
Juvenile's a word for it. Yeah,
I guess that's how we describe it. Like I think one of probably the only a YouTube show I've seen done right, or like show made by a YouTuber, is Smiling Friends.
I have not
L-
seen that.
The humor is just so well with what his audience already liked about him.
Yeah.
The YouTuber's name is Psychic Pebbles,
Okay.
but like his form of humor, he just put like directly into the show, and it works so well. And then like what you said about the what was the show? Oh, Oddballs.
Yeah.
What you said about that one, where it's like you can just tell it's like Netflix executives over there pulling
Oh yeah.
strings.
Oh yeah. It reeked of them.
It's just you see that difference.
Yeah.
And like also the other show is Adult Swim.
Hmm.
So I think that helped out because you don't have to there's not well, I've never made a show. But there's less of that executive pooling because it's like, oh, can't do this, not kid friendly.
Yeah.
Gotta appeal to this wide audience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can push the jokes a little bit more.
Of course. Of course.
That's my little tangent about oddballs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sorry,
Let's
that was
see.
like a pretty off topic for stories.
Not really, because the story time animated or animated the story time animated YouTubers. I mean, that is a form of storytelling. Like sharing experiences. Because that's really what storytelling at its core, how it started, is people just sharing information with each other. Um,
Yeah,
so it's like that is actually probably like one of the oldest forms of storytelling is the story time thing.
and it was done in an entertaining way on YouTube.
Yeah, and like as if it was like somebody like sitting there actually like sharing it one on one almost. That's what I like about YouTube and like like that side of YouTube. It's like you're actually interacting with the creator.
Yes.
Yeah, and like they're actually sharing a piece of them with you. We got a we got a decent sized episode here for storytelling. I think we can wrap it up unless you have like any other things you want to bring to the table.
Nah. Let's wrap this thing up.
So we're gonna call that an episode, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. I guess a question that I have for the listeners: what's your favorite form of storytelling? I mean, you can share it in the comments section, or you can just think it to yourself. Do you agree with everything that we said? Do you disagree?
Do you support Illusion Disc or not? I will block you if so.
That is a very, very big thing. And you know who you have to side with on that argument. And it's not him.
Go ahead and side with me.
No, don't side with him.
Express your opinions. It's a bad form of storytelling. And if you side with him, you're a
Express your
hater.
opinion. I'm kidding.
And you called Nick the communist. Oh my gosh, cut that out now that I think about it.
No, we're keeping that in. We're keeping
Same.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Anyways, so the topic for next week we will figure out. So we'll leave it up in the air and we'll spin the wheel next week. So thank you all so much for listening, for joining us, for taking time out of your day to eavesdrop on our conversation. And yeah, be sure to tune in next week.
Bye, haters.